everyone. Welcome into the Rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a lot to get into today. We're going to talk some Gamecock baseball later on as they've released their SEC schedule. All kinds of stuff that we're going to get into today here on the program. As always, you're welcome to join the show at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. You know, we talked about this yesterday, but then again, wow, the stuff that has come out about the Tennessee program, where I look at this and I just step back for a second, and I don't like to, you just look at this and you just think, my goodness, are they just that stupid? That's just the way that I look at it. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that programs don't cheat, because programs do cheat. That's just the way that it is. They can have this whole concept of, oh, this is happening and this is not happening and blah, blah, blah. It's better for us all just to step into the grounds of, yes, programs cheat. Okay? Now, other programs that you listen to, they're going to tell you, oh, well, this program doesn't do this and this program doesn't do that. They're all lying. They're all feeding you a false sense of goods. There is some cheating going on in just about every program. It's just a question of who can keep it under, I guess, who can keep it under control, who can keep it hidden. That may be the best way to go. Either way, it's a mess. But here's what happened at Tennessee, in case you've missed it. According to Dan Patrick this morning on his show, he said, point blank, I was told there are a few things that are going on here. I asked my source, how do they get these assistant head coaches on recruiting violations? He says they put money in McDonald's bags. They literally just took money and put it in McDonald's bags for recruits, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, they actually had bagmen. It would have been more funny if they'd gotten like the Happy Meal boxes and gotten them like a kid's size order of chicken nuggets, put those in there with the cash. But that's how they got money to recruits. Now, here's the other thing, too. Jeremy Pruitt had a 7-hour meeting, Thursday, to basically go over the stuff. And the NCAA was there, etc. And he put out a statement today saying, they only fired me because they didn't want to pay my buyout. Yes, sir. That's the way that it is. They didn't want to pay their buyout. But do you really think that in the end, Tennessee was like, let's put ourselves on life program-altering probation for this goofball? This guy who had issues speaking, but yet he was the head of a multi-million-dollar corporation, because that's kind of what the job is. And he sounded like a country bumpkin. And he's got his guys giving out cash in McDonald's bags. If that's not the stupidest thing that we'll hear this year, if it gets stupider than that, we're going to have problems. So if you're a Tennessee fan, you're kind of getting what's coming to you. Yeah, you're going to get rid of Jeremy Pruitt, but the reality is that now you're going to have to go into the coaching portal here and figure out who you want. And it's a mess. All right. They put out something talking about Las Vegas. And the chat room, you guys are mean. Jerome says it comes with a Beanie Baby. And do you get to choose the fries or the grapes? That's funny. That's a parenting reference right there. Jeremy says, I'd like to order a number one with extra money. So Yeah. What a mess. But here's the thing with that. When I look at, they put out this thing on the coaches that are Sportsline releases odds on the next coach for Tennessee. Here's what you got. Joe Brady's the longest shot. Bill O'Brien's right there at plus 2,200. Jeff Fisher is at plus 2,000. Why you would want Jeff Fisher as your head coach, I have no idea. Okay? No idea. Tony Elliott at plus 1,700. Doug Marrone at plus 1,400. Gus Malzahn at plus 1,200. Bill Clark from UAB at plus 1,000. Hugh Freeze at Liberty plus 800. Tom Herman plus 700. Kevin Steele plus 500. Now he's been named the acting head coach. Jamie Chadwell at plus 400. And Billy Napier at plus 300. Look, I'm going to throw this out there. You're going to have to get a coach that's damaged goods. Okay? And by the way, if I'm at Tennessee, McDonald's is now banned from the football program, period. We need to bring ourselves up. We need to have some of God's chicken. Why did they not send them out in Chick-fil-A bags? Those wouldn't have been looked upon like they were just crap. This is Chick-fil-A bags. Who doesn't look at a Chick-fil-A bag and think, this is absolutely great. Let's go with that. No, there's nothing wrong with a Chick-fil-A bag. You could have stacked stocks, bonds, and everything else into it, and no one would have thought anything of it. But you send that McDonald's bag, that just says, not so much. So if I'm the new athletic director, which, by the way, Phil Fulmer, I think, is an SEC legend, but he did sound like he was on another planet. All right? But when you hire your new athletic director, it's a sweeping change. There will not be a McDonald's bag brought on the football grounds, period. We are not going to do that. But all of these coaches, by the way, that they mentioned here, none of them are going to want to go to the program. And Brandon online has a very good point. He says they should hire Will Muschamp. He's damaged goods. They're going to have to find somebody that is damaged goods. Jerome's got me breaking up. Golden Arches has a new meaning. The Golden Arch is shaped in the form of the Tennessee T. I might break out my Photoshop skills and see if I can do that. That would be funny too. But the reality is it comes back to they're going to have a coach with that is damaged goods. So, ladies and gentlemen, the only coach that makes any sense on this list, yes, you could talk about Jeff Fisher, and he's damaged goods, in my opinion, because he's been a disaster in several different spots. But the only coach that makes sense is Hugh Freeze. Yes, the man who had his spiritual awakening at Liberty and brought them from being to what, a 10-1 program? That's the only coach that makes sense. Now, if the SEC tells them, they can't. I'm laughing at some of the comments. And by the way, you can call up with your references at 803-978-1832. Dollar menu for a dollar team. I wonder if they supersize for certain recruits. we can go all day. Being a chunky guy myself, I can get away with this. Jeremy Pruitt looked like Grimace. He's out there dancing. Boo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. Give them their bags. And Phil Fulmer looks like a clown, like Ronald McDonald, because he bought into all of this. Anyway, I think the only answer is Hugh Freeze. You're going to have somebody that is damaged goods that made their wear somewhere else. And they're going to have to figure that out. But all of these, do you think Jamie Chadwell or Billy Napier is going to look at Tennessee and think, you know what? That's where I want to go. My first big Power 5 job, I've worked my butt off working at at G5 schools and as an assistant and all that. Yeah, I'm going to go to Tennessee where I'm going to face years of losing, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm not going to be able to recruit because of the McDonald's bags. That's not going to happen. Tennessee is going to be a disaster for a while. For a while. And if I'm Rick Barnes, who is a very good coach with the basketball team, I'm not letting my basketball players anywhere near the football team. That team is diseased. I mean, just diseased right now. And you know what? If it weren't for academic standards, and by the way, Vanderbilt's beat them a good bit here. I think, 2 or 3 times, I think, in the past 5 years. And I have to look it up. Okay. They may be the worst program in the SEC East right now. They went from winning a national title to being a gong show, like reruns of the Gong Show. And they were cheating so much that they're going to have so many level 1 and level 2 violations. Wow. How far is the NCAA going to go with that? But Hugh Freeze is the interesting name. And David, who was pretty silly the past couple days because his Saints got their teeth kicked in, does have a great comment here. Bobby Petrino could be a great name. Now, I have listened and I've heard from several different folks that have told me that the SEC is not going to allow Hugh Freeze. Okay? So that may be out the window. So the perfect match is not going to happen. But Bobby Petrino could be an interesting answer there. And I know everybody's like, man, Bobby Petrino did this, Bobby Petrino did that. He was pretty much successful everywhere he went. But no coach that has no real strikes against him, where they've been soiled, I guess is the term, like a Billy Napier, etc., is going to go to Tennessee. So let's stop with the lies, because that's basically what it is. And by the way, I went and checked out a Tennessee message board. You know who they think is going to come to Tennessee? I'm not joking. Someone mentioned John Gruden, head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, is going to stop coaching the Raiders to go and coach a Tennessee program where he's not going to have any talent for at least 2 years. I think they're probably 2 years from being capable of winning, or capable of getting to a bowl game. I'm serious. It's going to be a disaster up at Tennessee. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you want to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon. I will take your McDonald's references, 2 T's stacked up. You can make them look like golden arches. That would be funny. But, man, what an absolute mess at Tennessee. 803-978-1832. We're also going to talk a little bit more about something happened yesterday with Deshaun Watson that was kind of, in some ways, telling. But it wasn't that far-fetched. But it makes you think, if you're a Houston fan. And by the way, being the general manager of the Mets means you're going to get fired. I'll talk to you about that in a minute, too. We'll take your calls at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. We'll also take calls on the NFL this weekend. There is the whole thing of, will Patrick Mahomes play for the Kansas City Chiefs? Yeah. That's going to be interesting. We'll have to see how that works out. So we're going to look at the playoff matchups as we get set up for this week too. South Carolina plays tonight in basketball as they're on the road at Mizzou. Someone told me, the Gamecocks had 3 losses on the season yesterday. I think it was Brandon over here in the chat room. And then 3 losses, but they only have 3 wins too, and that has to do with the COVID. So just from what you've seen of this Gamecock team, do you think they're capable of making the NCAA tournament? It's a very open-ended question, but we'll go with that this afternoon. Clemson's what? I think Clemson's what? I have to look at their record. They've got 2 losses on the season. They're 0 against the state of Virginia. Just saying. Panic Online says Georgia's next for NCAA violations. Yes, sir. I think that's coming down too. And, you know, if you get caught, you get caught. And I know that sounds silly, but you need to make sure that people understand this happens everywhere. And it's just that sometimes if you don't do things, quote, correctly, things can happen. 803-978-1832. I'm wondering what the stuff with Georgia. I think everything's just kind of we're kind of trying to decipher all the Tennessee stuff, but it's just, man, I can't believe they had assistant coaches with bags. They had actual bagmen, ladies and gentlemen, giving them McDonald's bags full of money. Oof. So if you remember, what was it last week? Georgia self-reported multiple level 3 violations in football. That happens a lot. We'll see where that goes with the program. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Is Tennessee the worst team in, you know what? We could even go, they're the worst team in the conference. Other than Vanderbilt, which to me, Vanderbilt is, the academics hold Vanderbilt back, to be honest. It's kind of hard to even counter Vanderbilt. McDumpster Fire. That wins the day from David Penn. All right, there we go. Take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more for you on the rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Brown bag special next time. I don't get it, man. I mean, I'm trying. I'm really trying. Sir, Georgia reported violations themselves last week. So there is things to see at Georgia. Sorry about that. I mean, you can hold up the, there's nothing. But Georgia reported violations themselves. Just saying. I wonder if Georgia, if they were using like Popeye's bags. You go program by program. What are they using to give the recruits money? Oh, man. Yeah. I can't say that on the air, but that's great, Brock. Crazy. Big Mac with extra lettuce. You know what? You know, everyone cheats though, man. It's insane. I have severe ADD, so I have to take my ADD meds. So sorry, you guys have to see me do drugs on the show. McDonald's filing a lawsuit. That's great. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. I'm just going to read you stuff from the chat room. These guys are on fire. Roll Tide 24 says, who's waiting for the guy to dress up like Ronald McDonald at the first Tennessee game? He can't wait. Are the opposing teams going to do that? I'm serious. If I'm like one of the opposing fan bases, I'm going to drop up. I'm going to have somebody as Ronald McDonald. We're going to have the Hamburglar, Grimace. All of us are going to go and dress up for the Tennessee game. Is the Tennessee game here or at Tennessee next year for South Carolina? I got to look at that. I can't remember. I think the Tennessee game, wherever it is, if you're a Gamecock fan and you're a true fan, if it's here, someone needs to dress up like the Hamburglar, and we need someone to dress up as Grimace, and then someone has to be a really good Ronald McDonald. Dead serious. The Fry Guys, that was the other one. Yeah. Taking me back to my childhood. You know what? Normally, I have to sit in the studio and do studio work for our best Gamecock coverage across the hall. If someone decides they want to do that, I'll buy a ticket and I will go. And since I'm the chunkiest amongst us, I have no problem with that. I will dress as Grimace. So we need the Fry Guys, we need the Hamburglar, and Ronald McDonald. We'll all go together and we'll sit there and laugh at Tennessee. I don't have a problem doing that. I'll sit there as Grimace in my big purple outfit, and we can all laugh hysterically as we hold up McDonald's bags and wave at Tennessee. And by the way, it's your fault this is happening, Tennessee. It's your fault. You don't want things to happen, then sorry. Don't do stupid things. By the way, someone was in the chat room talking about nothing to see with Georgia. Yeah, Georgia already reported violations. There you go with that. Jerome says he's skinny like Ron. Well, we're going to have to do the work on the costumes here. I'm just saying I can go as Grimace. I have no problem with that. Just saying. If you're going to be the Ronald McDonald, that's fine. We need the Fry Guys and the Hamburglar. Lawton Swan is bald, by the way, from Clemson Sports Talk. He could be the Hamburglar. So I've got the Hamburglar and I've got myself. We got to get Lawton away from Clemson stuff for a little bit, but we all can mock Tennessee for a day. If that doesn't happen, I'm dead serious. I will buy a ticket and we will go in and do that. I will dress like I will dress like Grimace. As long as see what'll happen though is that we'll get a group of people together to say they want to do it. And then everybody's like, yeah, we're all on board. And then I'll show up down there dressed like Grimace and no one else will show up. They'll just take pictures from me from afar. Look at Grimace. Ah! That's what would happen. Anyway, getting back to the stuff that may be coming for Georgia, they've already reported some violations. A sophomore prospect had a name tag printed out, which is against current NCAA rules. The other football violation occurred when a staff member had his flight paid for during a trip to visit another coach. The unnamed coach had to pay back the cost of the flight and a shuttle to make amends. I don't know if Grimace wears a singlet or not, but that may be happening. And since David's talking about this, I'll talk about it. I'm trying to enter my buddy Joseph has me entering a deadlift competition because I like to lift weights. Okay. So I thought I would enter this deadlift competition and everything would be great. I could show up, pair of shorts and a t-shirt and go out there and see who can lift the most heavy things, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like a bucket list type thing to compete in an actual powerlifting competition because I've done CrossFit meets, etc. They want me to, the rules say though, by the way, that I have to wear a singlet, like an Andre the Giant singlet. I don't know if I can have like with the single singlet. I think it has to be the double singlet, which is what you have to wear because I guess wearing a pair of shorts and a t-shirt gives you a competitive advantage over someone. I don't know. But I may be up wearing a singlet for a powerlifting competition. That's going to happen at some point. Insane, the things that I put out there to mock myself. Anyway, 803-978-1832 if you want to react to Tennessee. 803-978-1832. Brock says South Carolina is in a prime position to place themselves above Tennessee for a long time. Sir, that's not saying much. I mean, I hate to be that way, but Vanderbilt has academic things that they have to deal with. But the reality is that Tennessee right now, they are just not very good at all. And they're not going to be very good for a long time. They're going to be down in the Vanderbilt area. Tennessee and Vanderbilt, their matchup every year will determine, in my opinion, for at least the next 3 seasons, who's going to finish dead last in the SEC East. Joseph's laughing at me online, or I don't think he's laughing. He says, you can do it. My singlet came in yesterday. Well, see, the difference between me and Joseph looks like he's carved out of Greek rock, whereas I look like Grimace. So we'll have to figure that out. Anyway, but that's the other thing, too, is that they're going to battle to see who's last in the SEC East, and that's going to happen for a while. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you want to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400, we're going to talk about Deshaun Watson in a moment. One former coach is basically threw out his case to say, hey, this is where you should go. And I kind of laughed at that. But Deshaun Watson did something yesterday that is basically cemented the fact that he is going to be gone from the Houston Texans. Some of the other notes online is the Hamburglar bringing money to the Hamburglar bringing money to the Tennessee recruits. David says, are Gamecock fans really excited about finishing third from last in the East? Well, you got to start somewhere. That's where they're at with Shane Beamer. Just saying. But for the next 3 seasons, that's where Tennessee's going to be. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. And you want to know the crazy thing? It wouldn't surprise me if Jeremy Pruitt ends up back at Alabama. He may go back as an analyst, and eventually he'll be the defensive coordinator, and he'll coach the rest of his time out there under Nick Saban, where they'll keep him out from in front of microphones, and he won't have to make decisions about, the Hamburglar bags. Joseph asked if I'm going to talk about where Watson should go next. Yes, I've got my pick for that. We'll talk about that when we come back. We're going to take a quick break. We'll talk about Deshaun Watson and where he should end up. A couple of different spots and where I think he shouldn't go. All of that when we return. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. Hey, Fisher said that he's really interested. You could look at an infant Tennessee fan and be able to say, this children's children will never celebrate an SEC title. That's fair. Need a McJob. The ideal candidate is Hugh Freeze, but they're not going to let it happen. I don't know, Joe. I don't know, man. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that before we get out of here. Who do you think is the ideal candidate? I mean, what a disaster. You want to get rid of Pelini bad, don't you? Hilarious. Welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Of course, we'll take your calls on Tennessee. And Jerome had a great point. Who is the best fit right now for Tennessee? There's two ways of looking at it. You can go with Hugh Freeze, which might get you the better results, or you could go with like a Jim Grobe, a guy like Jim Grobe, who coached at Wake Forest, went out and was like the buffer coach between the coach that had all of the Art Briles regime, where they had all of the sexual assault accusations and all of that. Yeah, that way. They put somebody in there that was like, if you remember the movie Necessary Roughness with like Straight Arrow Gennaro, I think was the name of the coach. That's what they need right now at Tennessee. Look, we know we're going to go 2-8, 2-10, 1-11. Doesn't matter. But this guy's going to make sure we're following everything to the letter. Yeah. That's kind of what some people would think that they need right now. But if they're going to go after a good coach, it's going to have to be a coach, in my opinion, that's damaged goods, because some of these other guys that they're talking about, I would be stunned. Now, I know Jamie Chadwell's from Tennessee. He's from Chattanooga down at Coastal. But and that may have, growing up, that may have been his dream job. You know what? I want to coach one day at Tennessee. Maybe that's the route he wanted to go. But on the other hand, if he takes that job, wow. I mean, it's a poison pill job, in my opinion, because you're not going to do well. You're not. 803-978-1832. Yesterday in Houston, there was a group of fans that were talking about getting together to rally to try to get Deshaun Watson to stay in Houston. They wanted him to know that they support him, and it was basically more of a rally against the Texans front office. And Deshaun Watson tweeted out, hey, with the coronavirus, let's not have this meeting, blah, 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 etc. The more and more I think about it, he's going to be somewhere else. We're just waiting for the ball to drop. Where will he end up? Of course, you have the several people that are putting in their different spots. Where I think he should go, and if I take off my my Packers colored glasses here, because Rodgers has a good 2 or 3 years left, I think. So it's not going to make much sense for him to go there now. But for the betterment of Watson, the best place for him to go, in my opinion, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just think the culture there is great. Mike Tomlin's been there for a while. And then it just makes a lot of sense. I think that Ben Roethlisberger's time in Pittsburgh is over. So there's that. The former Jets coach, the one that, as my notes are not opening up for me now, the former Jets coach that had the big potty mouth, I want to say Coach Ryan up at the Jets, is trying to, say, hey, maybe he should go to the Jets. I don't know if I'm buying that at all. But in my opinion, the best spot would be with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Or you could go with, why not the Washington football team? Which it's hard for me to call them that. But that's what they're known as now. The Washington football team. Ron Rivera is a very smart coach. The guys love him there. Why not go with him? Him going there. There's talk about Chicago, maybe with the Bears, maybe the Las Vegas Raiders, who they've got some talent over there now. But you know what? I don't think quarterback's the problem for them. Miami trading Tua Tagovailoa is the thing that you keep seeing over and over and over again. I mean, I get that Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback, but wouldn't you feel a little bit just kind of off if you traded for Deshaun Watson and Tua Tagovailoa ends up lighting it up? It's just a thought. It's silly, though, when you think about it, where teams can, basically put their franchise together and blow it all up for one player. Then you have teams that put all of their eggs in one basket for one season. And sometimes that works out for them, sometimes it doesn't. Generally, the teams that are the best are, you could use, even though they lost this week, New Orleans generally has a very solid base. A lot of it built on Drew Brees at quarterback. But generally, you have a good quarterback, you've got a decent coach, you're going to win some games in the NFL. Simple as that. But all these other teams trying to get better quickly. Ugh. Good point from David online. The issue with Watson is his $40 million salary hamstrings a lot of teams. He's still owed 3 years, $120 million. He's worth every penny. Led the league in passing this year. Just saying. 803-978-1832. Would you want to blow up your team right now? Let's say you are the Washington team, where you're really solid in a lot of spots, but you're going to have to give up a bit to get Watson. Is it worth the risk? 803-978-1832. And I know people are like, man, Watson's the greatest quarterback ever. Yeah, I get that. He's a great quarterback. But that is you are really hamstringing your team to bring him in. Because Houston's going to want something for him. I wonder if Watson just would say, all right, let's just calm down a little bit. We'll go back and play. And then get another year, that contract eat up with Houston. Because he's going to get paid regardless. Wherever he goes, he's going to get top-tier quarterback money. So the other good part about this, too, though, for Watson anyway, is that people like Watson seems like he's an old soul in the NFL. But Watson's only 25. So he's got 3 years left on that contract. He'll be 28 when his contract is up with Houston. Just saying. a lot of quarterbacks don't really get it before then. He's still got, I would say, 7, 8 good years after that, maybe 9. Who knows? But he's 25 right now. And he's got plenty of time ahead of him. 803-978-1832. That's a good question from a Vodka Drinker. What a great YouTube name there. What would the Texans want in return, though? Yeah, and what are they? It's not an issue of what they want in return, because I can tell you I want 5 years of first-round picks and your best player. It's a question of what everybody else is going to give him. We'll talk more about that and a couple of little notes here when we return. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. You're right, man. And Watson's had ACL surgery like twice. So I don't know. I think he's had it 3 times. I think he had it in high school, then had it at Clemson, and then had it with Houston. It's still crazy to me, though. He's 25. I mean, that's not even remotely old in the NFL. Welcome back to The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Ladies and gentlemen, the NCAA tournament released the tournament schedule. First round will begin on a Friday. So think about this. The first 2 rounds, the first 4, all of the tournament will be played in Indiana, by the way. Let's get that out there. First 4 games on Thursday, March 18th in West Lafayette and Bloomington. The first 2 rounds will be played at 4 venues in Indianapolis: Lucas Oil Stadium, Bankers Life Fieldhouse, Hinkle Fieldhouse, and Indiana Farmers Coliseum from March 19th through Monday, March the 22nd. So think of it this way. Normally we have Thursday and Friday for the NCAA tournament. That's your first round games where everyone takes off from work, including me. I do take off for the NCAA tournament. Well, now I only take off on Friday. So Friday and Monday. There you go with that. Sweet 16 will be played Saturday and Sunday, the 27th and 28th of March. Elite 8 played Monday, March 29th and Tuesday, March 30th. Final 4 is scheduled for April 3rd and 5th at Lucas Oil Stadium. So there you go with that. Give you that bit of news there about the NCAA tournament. Some of the comments online, Joseph corrected me, he had 2 ACL surgeries. You're right. He also says he's worth a mid-tier quarterback, a high first-round pick, and a second-round pick. That's it. You can't trade away your team for one player. And then we'll be back in the same spot as Houston. Yeah. And here's the other thing, too. Watson does have a no-trade clause. Now, he hasn't even asked for a trade yet. Let's put that out there, too. So people seem to forget that. But the reality is that he has a no-trade clause. So if they come to him with, hey, we're going to trade you to the Jets, he can be like, I just got to pay higher taxes if I'm with the Jets. Why would I do that? No, I'm not doing that. I'll stay right here in Houston. I can suck here and keep a lot more of my money. Makes the most sense to me. Then you go with him having that kind of power, he can determine where he goes. So we'll see. Some of the comments online, Brock talking about Georgia. Yeah, they're next on the spindle here. As far as, we got to roast Tennessee today about their McDonald's bags full of money they were giving. Apparently, there's reports that Georgia may have gotten sloppy with their recruiting. I don't know if they were giving away Popeyes bags or maybe they were giving away bags from Hardee's. I don't know. Crystal bags of Crystal burgers. That may have been what they were giving away. I don't know. The McDonald's bags, I guess, just stand out. But anyway. So we're going to find out because I think that's coming in the coming weeks here for Georgia. Another comment, why don't the NFL ever pursue Kirby Smart? I don't know. I think being an NFL coach is a completely different animal. It's all about being able to manage egos. Nick Saban's the prime example of this. He likes to be somewhere where he can dictate what's going on. Whereas, we've talked about this before. When he was at Miami, people were like, I make more money than you do. Why do I have to listen to you? That doesn't make any sense. Why should I have to listen to you? So there's that. One other note before we get out of here today. This was interesting to say the least. By the way, I want to get this out first. The Gamecocks announced their upcoming SEC baseball schedule. Who do they get to start with? One of the best teams in the country, the first week of the season, Vanderbilt. Then they get Florida, who's always really good. Home matchups with Georgia. They're away at Georgia on April the 2nd. Home for Mizzou on April the 9th. On the road at LSU, April 16th through 18th. At home with Alabama, which, by the way, Alabama, I think we talked about this before. They kill me the way they stole the Atlanta Braves A and just gave it a mullet. It's sad. Ole Miss, the away team, they play them on April 30th. May 7th, they're home for Mississippi State, on the road for Kentucky, and then at home the final week of the season for Tennessee. So there's that. All right, so that's my one baseball note for today. We're going to have a full baseball preview with one of the gentlemen from Baseball America here coming up down the road, probably next week. But this story made me laugh. Not really laugh, but the Mets seem to have issues when they're trying to hire a general manager. Now, being an Atlanta Braves fan, I like to poke at Mets fans because they think that they're a valuable franchise, and they're not. So there you go. Brock's question, did I watch the South Carolina press conference? Yes, I did watch some of it. I'll have some comments on that tomorrow. Here, let's go to the phones really quick here before we get out of here. Welcome to the rundown.
This is an urgent message for the vehicle owner.
Man, those calls kill me with all that because I can't see who it is coming in. Anyway, Jared Porter was fired as the general manager of the New York Mets today, hours after acknowledging in a report that he sent unsolicited, sexually explicit images to a female reporter while he was employed by the Chicago Cubs, who, by the way, apparently knew about this and just let it go. An explicit image was the final message in a string of, he sent 62 consecutive unanswered texts to the same woman. And he's sitting here after he has 61 messages that he sends that she doesn't respond. He says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a picture of my anatomy and I'm going to send her that. Because that's just what she wants to see after the 61 other messages. What an absolute disaster this guy is. And here's the best part. He didn't think any of this would come out. You think that if you send those kind of messages out and you're getting a multi-million-dollar a year job running a major league franchise, that's not going to come out? Come on, man. Slow down with all of that. But here's the other problem, though. This lady, by the way, was a foreign correspondent living in the U.S. to cover baseball. And she says that was the tipping point in her decision to leave the industry. So he ran her out of baseball, basically. But remember last year when they had to fire their general manager because this guy was a part of the sign stealing scandal. So there you go with that. Brock asked if she's a medical professional. No, she was just someone that was covering baseball. She was a journalist. So there's that. But maybe that's my dating advice for you gentlemen that are listening today that don't haven't secured the girlfriend yet. If you find a young lady that you like, don't send her 61 messages in a row if she's not going to respond back. Okay? The 62nd one, by the way, should not be a picture of your anatomy. That's not going to work. Joseph hit me hard with another Brett Favre. Yes, Brett Favre did the same thing. And the other comment he has, I can't say on the air. But yeah, there's that. There's your dating tips for Rob. Follow me for more dating tips at Rob Sounds Good. David says, don't send her a picture of your McJunk. I can get away with that. Don't send a picture of your McJunk. If you do, put it in an actual tennis, put it in one of those bags and put money in it. Oh, that's sad. Wow, that's pretty bad. Anyway, the Mets are a disaster. Today's been disaster radio. We'll try to be more positive tomorrow on a Wednesday. Positive Wednesday here on the Rundown. You know, someone who's always positive is Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk. He is the czar of Clemson sports. Be sure to check out his show. Of course, coming up right after I move off the air at 4 o'clock on the vast Clemson Sports Talk Radio Network. I'm going to ask him point blank if he will be part of the mass group of us that will get together. I'm going to go as Grimace if Tennessee comes to town. And we need a Ronald McDonald, which I think we've got that with Jerome online. We need a set of the Fry Guys, but Lawton Swan would be the perfect Hamburglar. I want him to be the Hamburglar, and we're going to go and taunt Tennessee with, bags full of Monopoly money. I want to do that. But Lawton's the only guy I know that could play the role as the Hamburglar. We got to see if he'll do that. Check out his show, Clemson Sports Talk, coming up here momentarily. Vodka Drinker is right. 61 times is kind of creepy, but the 62nd message was the one that was the tipping point. There you go with that. 803-978-1832. We'll talk to you tomorrow, and you can call and we'll talk about hopefully things that are not McDonald's bags. More of the Rundown then. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. You guys are hot. You guys are hot dog crazy over there, man. Wow. Hilarious. All right. So follow, I'll be here tomorrow. Rob and Kale show tomorrow night. CSF late nights, which is kind of like an uncensored crazy show. We'll be doing that on tomorrow night too. So if you don't know about that show, message me. You'll like that. So it's me and 2 LSU fans. They don't care. They like the LSU. Anyway, tomorrow, see you guys then. Appreciate y'all, man. Have a good night.